Welcome, everybody, to Let's Talk Games, episode 63. I'm your host this week, Dan. In the middle, I've got Uncle Chunt. How are you, sir?
Old and great.
Jamie, how are you?
Old and ringing.
Old?
No.
Yeah. That's just because the child's on the way, so you're starting to feel a little bit older every day.
Yeah, just your body starts breaking down, and it's like, it's true. People really enjoy like your teens and your 20s because you'll never feel like that again. Yeah, you don't.
I'm glad you're uplifting our spirits this week, Jamie.
I get to feel old and drowned out. So do you, boys.
Well,
I'm happy to be here. Yay!
Thanks, Chunt. Well, I haven't hit 30 yet, so I'm still full of life.
I'm the oldest one here, man, and I'm like, yeah, fucking let's go.
Yeah, well,
look at me.
New and exciting things happened in your life recently, Chunt. That's keeping your spirits up. That's what we want.
Oh,
that's what we
love
want.
is a powerful force. It really is.
It really is. But another powerful force is the consoles that we all own. So let's talk about games we've been playing this week. And Chunt, you can start us off.
Fantastic. Well done. Yes. I started walking my lady through Gears 4. I'm playing that for the 101th time. I know it's 100th first, but I like to say 101th. Oh man, that first part of that game is just like with the robots and the DVs. It's like yawn. The game really just doesn't pick up until you hit Marcus Phoenix. Anyway, I still love Gears. I'll play that shit until I die. And I started Yakuza Kiwami 2. And holy shit, I tweeted out earlier this week of just like, wow, what a difference this one is. The first two feel old. Like Zero is a new game and it's a prequel, but Kiwami is a remake of a PS2 game. And it definitely feels like it. But Kiwami 2 is also a remake of Yakuza 2 on PS2 or 3, I want to say. But man, you can tell that the work that they put in on this one, it's just like graphically, it's like, wow, this is new. There's motion blur and there's lighting effects and the combat feels modern and you can save anywhere. You don't have to walk up to a save point. I'm really enjoying it, man. It's great. I can't wait to keep going on it. But otherwise, I think we're done with the Halos except ODST now. And then I can finally uninstall Master Chief Collection for a good long while and put like Destiny or something back on. Yeah, done.
Destiny, that sounds a type of game you might play, Jamie. What have you been playing?
Incidentally, some Destiny. It's like you almost knew.
Nice.
I've noticed, Discord does that thing from Xbox as well. Like when someone's playing something, it populates your Discord thing to say is playing. Like you're always playing Age of Empires. I was like, hey, my Discord thing says I'm playing Destiny. I played some Destiny. Iron Banner's back. I've level capped for this season. I don't know if I'm too interested in finishing the season pass. I've got 70 odd days to do it, and I'm about a third of the way through it. But I want to get back through the Vault of Glass. I'm powerful enough to do it. So it's just about finding a group of people to do it with, which is difficult when you don't have, dad duties going on. So, with another one on the way, like it's not looking very likely that I'm going to get through that. So I need to get on it quick, smart. Other than that, I played some Fortnite. Their new season came out. Quite interesting. Aliens are everywhere. There's some pretty cool like alien weapons in it. Chunt's happy because Superman.
Can you get Superman now? Is he on there?
No, Superman's 60 odd days away.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
But yeah, they've changed some stuff up. I mean, it's something I play casually. By no means is it something that I'm like, oh my god, I need to play this video game. But they've changed up how you unlock things, which is pretty cool. Like rather than having to get your next level to unlock the next thing, like you actually get to pick which of the unlocks you want. It's like you open a page of unlocks, you get in-game currency, you spend that currency on whatever you want to unlock. So you don't have to unlock a load of shit you don't want if you don't want to. You can just go straight to the stuff you do want to unlock, which I think is pretty gamer friendly. Nothing else, I don't think. I tried to play Returnal. We were just talking about that before we turned on. I played for about 20 minutes and I was just like, I can't do this. Like it's like you get so far and then get killed by something really stupid, and it's like I don't have that desire to start again. Do you know what I mean? Like, whereas when the game first came out and I was playing through it, it's like, this is really good. Like, the novelty, if you like, it's like, this is great, getting as far through as you can. The difficulty spike in the biome that I'm in now is just, it's silly. Like, I've got to really want to sit down and play it. It's not something that I can just throw on and go, oh, I'm going to get through this. It's more like, I'll throw this on, have a run, see how far I get, do one run, and then go, nah, done. But yeah, that's what I've played in terms of the video games this week.
Well, I actually just sat down and had a run at Returnal last night just because I had been really feeling like playing it, and it's really hard at the moment because I'm going between 3 games that are all games that, like, it's not really about accomplishing much. Like, playing of Age of Empires or playing NBA 2K and even Returnal, I guess, they're just games I'm just throwing on and I play for a few hours each time. With 2K and Returnal, it's a very... I have to be in the specific mood to play them because I need to physically get up, take the disc out, and put in the other one. So a lot of the time, I'll just turn on the PlayStation. I'm like, well, 2K's already in there. I guess that's what I'm playing tonight. Whereas if Returnal was in there, then I'd do the same thing. I'd be like, well, I guess we're playing Returnal because I can't be bothered going and switching. And
Brilliant.
I've been on a Friends kick this last couple of weeks, a week and a half, and so to give Monique the main TV, I just come in, jump on the computer, have Friends on one screen, Age of Empires on another, and drinking a Bundy, and I'm like, that was my Saturday night last week, so I had a very good time.
Nice. Well done.
But this past week, I've more so been just keeping an eye on with all the gaming news and games that might be coming. Just kind of thinking about my game list, that my shopping list, which we'll probably do in a week or two after all the announcements from E3. So I'm just keeping an eye on that mainly. But yeah, same 3 games for me this week. But there's not a lot of news this week. Just moving into E3, which basically starts tomorrow from when we're recording. So next week we're going to try and record a little earlier if we can, and just kind of cover all the conferences and everything, which people have probably watched by now. But the Summer Game Fest did start this week technically, and Jamie, because of the time zone difference, which I will touch upon when I talk about the Summer Game Fest stuff, you were able to actually watch a lot of it. When it was happening. Do you want to give us a quick little breakdown of what you enjoyed or what was big to take out of it?
I didn't enjoy very much of it, to be perfectly honest. I think it was longer than it needed to be. It seems very evident that Jeff Keighley is just trying to compete with E3. He mentioned a lot about, this is my vision, or, thank you Prime Gaming for understanding my vision of what, a summer of games should look like. And it's like, I agree with him to an extent, but then I also think that his way of doing it and elongating the whole thing over an entire summer is completely reductive. But I think we're not on our own in the 3 of us wanting to get this whole event and this news cycle done in a week. Like, we experienced it being dragged out last year and it was terrible. But it's exciting to start with because you go, we've got something to talk about every week. And, there's this new thing happening, that new thing happening. But it's just exhausting. The whole show seemed to be put there just to announce Elden Ring, because everything else is either stuff we knew about or was really, really, like, menial stuff that could show up anywhere else. There was nothing of massive value. He talked to the guys from Call of Duty who went, he's like, and there's a new mainline game coming this year. It's like, is the fucking sky blue? Of course there's a new Call of Duty game coming this year. So stuff like that, it's like, and then you have Hideo Kojima rock up and it's like, maybe he has got a bit of a coup because Kojima's his best mate for some random reason. I don't know how many times he's tickled his penis or something, but yeah, he's always rocking up at Jeff Keighley events. And he's like, Jeff, one more thing. And people are like, bated breath. Death Stranding's getting a PS5 port. Do you know what I mean? It's just all very, very, like, non-news. Elden Ring looks fucking unbelievable. Like, it does look pretty sick. So I can see why people are excited. It's none of our type of... None of us are into the kind of Souls-like games, really. I've dabbled, Dan, I think you've tried Bloodborne once, and it's like, they're not really our cup of tea, but I would say art style looks wicked. It's very evidently running on new hardware or PC. There's no way that last gen consoles are going to make that game look like that. If you've watched the 4K trailer, I'd advise you watch that one over the one from the show. Anything else that really stood out to me? I sent you guys a link yesterday to a game that looked pretty cool. I can't remember what it was called now. I have heard of it before, and I was like, that's that game. And I do not remember.
Animal Crossing Fable looking one.
No, that was ages ago. Lost Ark. Lost Ark looks like a bit of a Diablo kind of type style game. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. But nothing else stood out to me at all. Load of nonsense. Just a reason for Jeff Keighley to smile on a stage and go, hey, the Game Awards are coming back too. And here's Elden Ring, and I don't have to pretend that it doesn't exist anymore. So that was the big piece of news. It's coming out in January of 2022, and I would be willing to put my entire crypto wallet on the fact that it does not hit that date. It is pushed. There is no way that game comes out in January. And the reason that it's not going to come out in January is because there are already rumors about it being held back by its last gen version. Stop making games for the last generation if they don't work. We've never had this before. Do you know what I mean? I know the install bases are huge, but developers always used to turn around and go, we can't really build our vision on that hardware. We need to build it on the new hardware. How does the industry move forward if we're not doing that? Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, it's going to sell gangbusters, right? And if people don't pick it up now because they don't have the hardware, they'll pick it up later. Like, it's just, or it'll encourage people to pick up new hardware. It's a system seller. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those types of games for people. A lot of people just play Souls-likes, and it's like, well, here you go. Here's a new one, but you've got to grab a PlayStation 5 Series X or upgrade your PC to play it. Like, I don't understand. Like, the more and more games we keep hearing about being just held back by hardware, it's like, well, stop developing for it then. Like, just stop. Like, why would you stop an industry moving forward? Like, I get the install base and, the financial obligations, and they can make a heap more money by, promoting the game to that install base. But at what cost? At the cost of your creative vision, and at the cost of the performance, and at the cost of your reputation. CD Projekt Red. Like, just fucking stop it. But yeah, that was Summer Games Fest. Other than that, there was literally nothing to report. I don't know if either of you scrubbed through or saw any of the trailers or anything from it. There's definitely nothing more of note that I've got to add. It was a criminal waste of time, to be honest. I'm very pleased that I started watching it half an hour after the live stream has started, so I could scrub through when it was like, I don't care about this, and I just skipped it. I don't care about this. I think I only spent about 20 minutes watching it myself.
And games also used to be developed from the lower scale up, and it feels like a lot of games these days, they're trying to build the best possible version and then bring it down, which is much harder to do in any type of creative thing you've ever done. It's much harder to try and dumb everything down starting from that high position. So anyway, on to Summer Games Fest. I kind of just scrubbed through different trailers and that. A lot of games just from a thumbnail perspective, but a lot of them look the same. It was really, really strange. Like, even when you posted the Lost Ark trailer, it was very shortly before or after the Elden Ring trailer, and I'm like, these are very dark and moody. This is apparently people aren't having a very good time during COVID. But my main thing from Summer Game Fest is, one, it's not as long as last year. It's like he's got it going for like a month and not 4 months or something, which thank God for that. Also, the thing that is clear to me, and just looking through the time slots for E3 this coming week, being in Australia, these time slots suck. Like, really, like, I think this is the first year in a long time I won't probably watch any type of presentation or conference or anything like that, because I think the latest start of any of the conferences is like 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
I just got it up before because, Jamie, you sent through the stuff, and I think that's the freaking, like, the award show is at 8:45 a.m. everything else starts at about 1 or midnight, and I'm just not going to be able to sit through them. And this was kind of this case. Like, I woke up and I'm like, well, it's 4 hours, and I got work and shit to do, and I just won't have the time to go through a lot of this. So just looking at the Summer Game Fest thing and seeing it was 4 hours long, like it gives me the same feeling of thinking that we have 4 months of announcements and shit spaced out randomly. That was kind of my same feeling. We had heard rumors about the Wonderlands, the Borderlands spin-off, the Teeny Tina's Wonderlands game.
Wonderlands.
I was surprised by the people that are voicing characters in that game, like Andy Samberg and all. Ashley Birch, obviously, but she's starting to be in everything. But yeah, there's so many voices in that game. Like this is a really weird game to get all those people. While I probably will not play that game at all, I kind of want Gearbox to have one game that kind of does well, because apart from Borderlands, they've really struggled. Like when you've got Godfall, and you had, years ago they had that Battleborn thing that went up against Overwatch, which failed. Like they've really struggled with a lot of their games. So let's hope they can make one that is somewhat interesting. Chunt, you got any words?
Look, I have a love-hate relationship with Jeff Keighley, just on the best of days, because I think he's just really up his own ass. But I don't really find the appeal on what he has to put forward. Like Summer Games Fest just seems to me, I'm saying this as a critic. I mean, he's achieving and doing the shit that everybody wants to do. So good on him. Like whatever. And I'm just sitting here commenting on it. So I don't want to discount his efforts for the gaming industry and that kind of crap, because he does a lot. But the Summer Games Fest thing is like, here's all the stuff that I'm interested in, yay, from my industry buddies, and we all flick each other's beans and whatnot. That's the feeling I get from it. Whereas the Video Game Awards seems more along the lines of, I think there is, there probably isn't, but I think there's still some bias in his production on that one. But I think it's more fair and more varied and more kind of polished and professional, and some big announcements and big names. Whereas Summer Games Fest to me is like, this is my show. Is it like Jamie said, this is my vision. So I kind of skimmed through a lot of the highlights of it, and he says that a lot. This is what I want to do. This is my thing. Thanks for believing in my thing. It's like, well, is it Jeff Keighley's Summer's Game Fest or what? There's a whole production team behind you and whatever. I don't know. Just the whole approach of the whole thing. I don't like it. End of story. That Ren and Stimpy horse. No, sir, I don't like it. Anyway, that's a deep cut for anyone that understands that reference. But yeah, look, I skimmed through all the trailers. Nothing really got me. Man, Elden Ring, yay, wow, cool. Death Stranding PS5, Director's Cut, cool. I mean, I might play that eventually when I get a PS5. That game does intrigue me, even though it's a postage walking simulator from what I'm told. But I'm still just very intrigued by it some weird way. I've never really cared much for Metal Gear or Kojima's games, but this one, something about it. But anyway, otherwise, the rest of it, you got like Blood Hunt, which is just another Battle Royale thing. And that, I think Wonderlands, it's probably going to be another type, I assume, of that. And there's more Call of Duty Battle Royale. And then there was another Battle Royale, I forgot the number for. Like, you got all these ones coming out of the woodworks that have probably been sitting on it for a couple of years. I'm so over it. It was just very boring. Just a lot of the same kind of games. Zero interest. I mean, the most hype thing I've been excited about as far as game announcements this week was the Alex Kidd remake announcement. I saw that trailer on my Xbox subscription feed. I'm like, holy shit, yeah. That's coming out in June 22nd. I'm going to be all over that. Yep, that's the most exciting thing I've seen this week. So yeah, that's me. Pass it back to you, Dan.
I mean, before you do the thing with the Wonderlands thing, I forgot that even happened. The actors they've managed to get for it. What I don't appreciate is, and I like Ashley Birch a lot. Obviously, she's Aloy. She's in Mythic Quest. Like, I can't not like her enough. I will say she's starting to get to the Troy Baker stage of where she's in fucking everything, which there's no need for. But it really annoys me that they're saying it's not a Borderlands game. She was point blank asked, "Is this a Borderlands game?" And she's like, "No. People who enjoy Borderlands will probably enjoy this. It's a looter shooter with a very similar art style, using the concept from a Borderlands DLC. It's a Borderlands game. It's a spin-off, of course, but don't say it's not a Borderlands. It's going to play identical to Borderlands. You can tell just by looking at it. Like, say it's not set in the universe, but it is a spin-off from the game, or it's something along those lines. Like Tiny Tina's in it, for fuck's sake. She's in Borderlands." Industry nonsense, man. They're just silly. But yeah, that's my comment on Wonderland.
And that's almost all the news for the week, really. Like there was some Ubisoft stuff which I was trying to pick up. Jamie, did you mention earlier about Ubisoft and they announced some stuff this week? Early, there was a report that apparently they're creating some multiplayer game that is putting together like different factions from the Division 2, Splinter Cell, and Ghost Recon Breakpoint in like a multiplayer game, and it's like a class-based shooter, but just like once again, it's just another multiplayer little shooter.
How many of these fucking things do we need, man? Seriously, give me Alex Kidd.
Well, that's it's just hitting that saturation point, isn't it? Like yes, Dan, you're right. Yeah, Ubisoft have basically working on a Tom Clancy multiplayer shooter that will be team based. So a team based tactical shooter. So I'm thinking Valorant-esque. Like, do you know what I mean? Counter-Strike, Valorant, that kind of, or Rogue Company, like that type of game. Thank God it's not a battle royale, because there's definitely not enough of those around. They're taking two of the factions from the Division. It's the Cleaners and I can't remember what the other ones are called. The Cleaners and the Wolves. Yeah, they're taking the Ghost Company from Ghost Recon. And I can't remember who the other one was. Something to do with Splinter Cell.
Operatives? I think
yeah, the Operatives from Splinter. So that's Splinter Cell, isn't that? Sam Fisher. So they're going to basically, they're your types, they're your classes that you can choose from and have at it. They'll all have their own abilities, etc. It's not very interesting. I mean, I think people would much rather that Splinter Cell just got a new game. I mean, that's pretty much the hyperbole you hear everywhere. Just make Splinter Cell. You've got the license to it. There hasn't been a Splinter Cell game since 2008, I think. So that's like a long time, like 12, 13 years.
On top of that, they renamed Quarantine to Extraction, which, okay, sure, all right.
It's basically like Chunt, the Hive Busters stuff in Gears. It's basically that. Like, right. You're in a race against time to get out of this lab before you get consumed by a bioweapon. I mean, it sounds like what happened over in China around a year and a half ago, but let's not open that can of worms. Yeah, it's like great, but who's your market? And I think this is an issue that Ubisoft are going to run into, and the fact that they're doubling down on it, right, is strange because Hyperscape, their foray into the battle royale scene and into their, free to play, earn all the money, bleed everyone dry kind of sphere, ended in disaster. That game has no player base. That game is not making them any money, and it probably is running at a loss. Why would you then do it again with this Extraction thing or this Tom Clancy thing? Like, do what you're good at. Do you know what I mean? Like, I always think about Mary's, the burger joint Mary's, and it's like, you go into Mary's, you can literally buy a burger or some fried chicken, right? They're good at making burgers and fried chicken. They know what they're good at. They make it, and they make plenty of cash doing it. Why, for the love of God, do Ubisoft just not think like that? And why do all these game developers that think, hey, we can make a battle royale, or hey, we can make a multiplayer shooter? It's like, I get that that's where the audience is, but it's just stifling the creativity. So it's like when things, like you said, Chunt, you're more excited for like an Alex Kidd remake. Like, Dan, I know you've played the other ones, but like you see something like Ratchet and Clank, and immediately you go, Yeah, probably not for me. A bit cartoony and don't really care about it. But at least it's something different. At least they're trying something different with the technology. At least the industry's evolving. Like, it's like, well, I'll take, we've spoke about Elden Ring. Take FromSoft. It's like, right, well, they started with the Demon Souls kind of thing. They've evolved it a bit into Dark Souls, and then they evolve it a little bit again, and you get Bloodborne, and then they evolve it a little bit again, and now all of a sudden we've got an open world Souls game with horses and Zelda-like properties, and it's like they've evolved their formula, they have changed, they have moved their vision forward, and then you just have all these companies trying to cash grab at trends, and it's like it stifles the industry, and it's so boring. The other thing that was.
Can I interrupt on what you're just saying?
Yeah.
It's very interesting that you made that comment literally about this is the thing that they think that like that's what they do best type thing, because this week there was also EA announced Battlefield 2042.
I was literally just about to move into Battlefield,
and I only say that because the quote from the design director told Eurogamer this week. He says, "I think that's just something that enables us to really lean into what we are best at." Was literally his quote. was him saying this is what we're best at, and they're talking about the multiplayer offering, 128 players on PC, PS5, Series S and X, and then 64 on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. So it's very interesting to use those words saying that these studios are thinking this is what we're best at. And literally from a game director of the Battlefield game, that just when I saw that, and because there's no single player in that game either, they said there's no battle royale mode. This is just massive multiplayer game. I'm like, cool, but like this is the game you're coming out with after having a hiatus. Because I can't remember what the last Battlefield was at this point. It was at least 3-4 years ago. And this is what they come out with. It just sank. It just rock in an ocean. Like it just sank.
Well, I mean, they got pretty woke with Battlefield 5. They tried to turn history into something that it wasn't, and that turned a lot of people off. And
having female soldiers on the front line just for SJW purposes, which is ridiculous. Again, I'm all for robot hands. Like I'm all for inclusivity, and but when you're building a game based on historical data, that's not historical, is it? It's fucking pie in the sky bullshit. But yeah, to kind of chime in on Battlefield, it's I mean, I'm probably not looking through at Battlefield through the same lens as you. I'm annoyed that it's a $70, £70 game for just a multiplayer suite. Like, that's just EA being EA, isn't it? But in terms of the director saying, look, no, we're doubling down on what we're good at, they, for all intents and purposes, are. Do you know what I mean? It's like they have this Battlefield formula. They have the destructive environments. They have the large worlds. They have the big maps. They have the big player counts. And all of that has now expanded because the new hardware has allowed them to do that. So I get what they're saying there. But again, it's another trend where they're just trying to cash in. We know it's going to have a battle pass. We know that they're going to have seasons. It's like the first 4 seasons will introduce new operators, and we're going to do storytelling through operators. But it's like, at what point does that then become a $70 retail game that you're going to nickel and dime me for a season every 3 months? Like, where is the value to the customer? And I think that that's a place that games are getting to in terms of the associated, like, dollar cost averaging. Like, what am I getting back for every dollar I put in? The price of video games is all over the place, like absolutely all over the place, because that, and again, to talk about something I know about, that uses Destiny's model, right? It's like, here's your game, you pay for a new DLC or whatever, and then every season you pay in, or you pay in at the start of the season, you get the whole year's content. Which I think like EA have their gold editions and ultimate editions and all that stuff. I think the gold and ultimate edition include the first year's content, but they're like $120, like, rather than, $70. It's like, what are Bungie getting it right? Bungie charge, I think $40, I think $35, $40, or it's free on Game Pass for the content, and then every season that you get is, I think it's $9.99 a season or $8.99 a season or whatever it is. It's like, that for the value that I get out of it is worthwhile. But if I look at Bungie's cost model to now what EA is saying their cost model is, it's nearly twice as much for what I'm going to see as way less content because it's just PvP. It's just multiplayer. Like, there is no cohesive story campaign. There is no, progressing narrative world around it that involves just me picking up my controller and going and playing. Like, it is just PvP. It is just multiplayer focused. And how can these games continue to persist and exist and charge $70 when pretty much every other big multiplayer on the planet is now taking that model of course they are. They're all doing it, but they're free to play. Halo's multiplayer in Halo Infinite is going to be free. Do you know what I mean? So how do they... I don't understand where they think they're going to be able to charge $70 and have a successful game launch. I think it's going to fall on its arse. Has it been given a date yet? It hasn't, has it? We know it's coming later this year, so you're assuming October, November time. But if that game comes out...
22nd of October.
Yeah, so October. What, 2 weeks later, Halo comes out and it's free to play?
Yeah.
Call of Duty probably a week after that.
I know where I'll be
again,
going.
which Call of Duty will charge full price. I'd imagine Call of Duty will do something similar, but I also think they'll have a campaign.
Yep.
Well, they learned their lesson.
That year. They learned when they didn't have one. They did. So I think they'll know that they need to have a campaign. And, Sledgehammer are working on it. Sledgehammer, a good studio, probably be a good campaign. But it's just like, I just see so much weird shit going on with this pricing structure in the industry. It's like, Dan, I know you didn't pay full price for it, but would you pay full price for Returnal? Is Returnal a $70 game? I know the developers didn't know it was and didn't think it was. Like, Sony told them it was a $70 game. There's been comments around that. Like, they had no idea that they were going to be a full price $70 game. Ratchet, is it a $70 game? Apparently it's 10 or 15 hours. For what it's doing with the visuals, for how good it makes the world look. Is it valued at $70? There's a real question around, like, the value of video games. And I think the greed of publishers is now really starting to irk a lot of people. I know we spoke at length, obviously, last year when we knew that this price increase from 60 to 70 was going to happen kind of across the board. But it feels like it's been woefully misguided. Because I think now there's a highlight on the fact that, hang on a minute, am I really getting more value for money here just because it's a new generation of video games?
Well,
Chunt, you can go first.
Yeah, just on the value of that. I've been living in Game Pass for a good while now. And just waiting around for game sales and stuff like that. And just with like me and my fiance, we've been like flogging Game Pass for like all we can get out of it. And just so we don't have to buy a new game, we can just go like, so what do we want to do for a few hours? Let's see what Game Pass has. And we just jump in, play, I don't know, Elder Scrolls Online for a couple of hours, or jump into, I don't know, Bless something under, I can't remember what it is. Or, Master Chief Collection's on there, so we've been smashing that. All the Gears games, just whatever. And Outriders, we played through that as well. And it's nothing really out of our pockets at all, except $15 for the month. It's ridiculous. So to turn around and go, oh yeah, $70 for Ratchet, which I actually very much am interested in playing that one day, but I definitely won't be paying $70 for it. I'll be waiting for a sale, 100%. But yeah, I'm very, very cautious these days. Like, even with Nintendo games, I still buy my Switch games physical. I just like the cartridges, whatever. Like, and I have an EB down the road, and they do Afterpay, so I just use Afterpay, so it lessens the sting even more for a $70 Nintendo game. Like, what did I buy recently? Super Mario Party, because they upgraded it 2 years later to have online, so I can play with my family and my partner, And I'm just really risk adverse to spending full price on full price games anymore, And I think when we looked at the showcase that happened today, nothing interests me because it's all the same shit. None of that looks like a game that I want to spend an afternoon with my partner and play a co-op game or something. Like, we've had more fun going through all the Halos and Gears games than we have wasting our time on like a multiplayer shooter or like a free one, that you can get off Xbox anywhere or even on Game Pass. And there's something about playing through a co-op campaign with someone that is just so much more rewarding than just wasting your time on a multiplayer match. This is my opinion, my experience anyway. We're preferring to do that. we've downloaded a couple of games. Oh, Fallout 76, we gave that a go. That's actually a pretty competent game now. It's the first time I played it. It was this month, last month sometime. It's pretty good. But like something like that, where there's a campaign that you can both join in on the adventure on, appeals to me more than jumping into just a free game that's another shooter, And I'm a bit concerned that every game now, after this Games Week announcement thing special that we had, I'm now a little concerned for E3. Like if there's more of that coming, I was so underwhelmed with the showings today, and if we got more of that coming next week, I think the Xbox One is the one I'm actually going to wake up for, which is 3 a.m. on the 14th. I'll be up around then anyway, so I may as well watch it. I'm a bit concerned, and I want my big games back, all my big franchise type campaigns or story modes that we all used to play. I've been saying that shit for years, and it's not looking like it's coming back anytime soon. But we'll see. Particularly with like Ubisoft, like we talked about last week, where they're like, yeah, we're just going to do a lot of free to play games now because it's easier or whatever, and that's really disheartening to me. So we'll see. I'll always have my shelf back there of all the other games that I played, and me and the lady can just go through Halo and Gears again.
Well, but no, you raise a valid point, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like I am quite fond of a multiplayer shooter. I think I've found the ones that I enjoy playing, and there's ones that I definitely don't. A year or two ago, I'd have sat here and gone, I can't be fucked with playing something like Fortnite. But in terms of, I think back to being a teenager, a young adult in Halo or in the earlier Call of Duties, and just kind of that thing where, like Dan, what you say about like 2K, you just sit down, you flick your machine on and go, I just want to pass half an hour, play something. Like that's something that you can just hop into. Like I'm lucky that I'm quite competent at shooters, so it's actually fun for me. Do you know what I mean? It's not like I'm just sitting there and getting mowed down. Like I'm winning. So it's like, oh, this is fun. It gives me that dopamine hit. But in terms of actual video game experiences and enjoying the games that I'm playing, I haven't had, and I've alluded to this several times, I haven't had better video game experiences than I have, playing through Destiny content with you, Chunt, or playing through. I'm not a huge fan of the Gears games, but those experiences are memorable to me because they were a shared experience.
Yep.
And I think that there is something to be massively said for that. Not that obviously I know that couch co-op's going away, but just still having that thing where you can invest with other people, you spend time together, it becomes a social activity. There's definitely something to be said for that, which I think is why a lot of people do enjoy these multiplayer shooters. We used to do it at college. We'd be at college and it's like, oh, are we all jumping on Halo tonight? We'd go in with a full stack team and just mow people. And it's like, but we're all sat on chat and we're talking to each other, and it's like, it's a social experience.
Yeah.
But it doesn't need to be the whole industry. It doesn't need to be everything. And it's just concerning when you see that the big third parties like Ubisoft turn around and go, we're doubling down on free to play shit.
Yeah.
It's like, what gives you a reason to think that that's a good idea? Your first foray into free to play shit ended in disaster. Nobody's playing it. Like, why would you continue doing it? At least people buy your Assassin's Creed game.
Yep.
Like,
see, my thing is also, I actually think mainly for like the developers is my biggest thing, because we always talk about like the free to play games and that are really successful. Like we talk about Warzone or we talk about Fortnite and any of these games. But like, can you imagine being these developers that have been working on a game for, let's say, 3 years on, and working up to this release date? And normally when you have like a big game, like a big game like a Last of Us or something, where it gets released and then all the developers sit there and they wait for the reviews to come in and they can see how much the game did and they can start working on the next thing. Like, can you imagine being someone working on Godfall? Like, you're working on that game for 3 years and it comes out and it's just like, then not only is they're getting all these reviews talking about like, this is underbaked, this is whatever, you then have to continue working on that game for the next however many years because it's a live service game and you have to keep it running. And you're just working on this game that you know is heading towards a dead end.
Anthem.
Like same thing with Anthem. Like, imagine those people working on Anthem for that amount of time, trying to just get this game up to scratch, and then they have this one meeting and they're like, "No thanks, like it's done."
Yeah.
Like that's even worse, because suddenly you're on a game for 5 years that's not going anywhere, and you have to sit there while people around you are leaving to go work for other people, and you're one of the leads, so you don't want to leave. But I actually feel worse for the developers because they have to stick with the game in a really bad way.
But then even if you're a developer that does some good, you just got to look at like the likes of Toys for Bob and Vicarious Visions, like do stellar work, like have really well critically reviewed kind of remakes, remasters, and games and stuff, and then Activision go, "You're going to go work on Call of Duty," and it's like, fucking what? And it's like, Vicarious get absorbed into Blizzard, and they're now, the Diablo 2 remake was in a bit of trouble, so they bring Vicarious Visions in to fix it because they're good at remastering shit. So it's like, all right, you're just being absorbed to work on other properties rather than.
At least it's better than just being put on as support staff for Call of Duty multiplayer.
Yeah, I think Vicarious have got a better. Yeah, they've definitely got a better deal than Toys for Bob have, and it's just, and they're not the first, are they? I think there's been 3 smaller studios rolled into the Call of Duty team by Activision this year, and it's like, just also Bobby Kotick can have some more money, really.
He looks like a troll too. Like if you look at him, he looks like a fucking troll,
Yeah, and he's the biggest troll in the fucking industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we're letting 855 staff members go, but I'm still taking home 65 million in fucking bonuses.
I think that's what's also making me nervous about this E3 weekend is that, like, while I was getting excited to see these like presentations and stuff again, as the news kind of trickles out as to what people are going to or studios are going to talk about, you start looking at the games and you're like, oh, okay, you're kind of going in this direction, aren't you? And suddenly less and less games are becoming interesting. Like, I'm so nervous about the Square Enix presentation, and I have no idea what that Guardians game is going to be. Like, I know it's by Eidos that make the Deus Ex games, but you could say the same about Crystal Dynamics with the Avengers game. Like, no one would have thought the people making Tomb Raider were going to come out with a game like that. So I'm just nervous about what that Guardians game will be. Like, where are they going to go with it? Because it's too late for them to change direction now.
Just wait for Phil Spencer to come out and set the world straight and showing the way how things should be, like he does, I
think there is an element of that, Chunt. There's a huge element of, I think this whole weekend for a lot of people is very much relying on Xbox and Nintendo to bring the goods.
Yep.
Because I think a lot of the sentiment around the other shows is very much, as you said, Dan, it's more concern than excitement. It's like, I'm worried about what these guys are doing. Like, how are they going to, they've got an interesting idea, but I'm concerned about how they're going to present it. I'm not even Square. I'm underwhelmed. We're going to get to see the next Avengers DLC. Hip, hip, hooray.
Like, and Life is Strange and...
Yeah, Life is Strange, actually. It's something I know we didn't really talk about last week with like predictions and stuff because we've already seen it. But that looks good. Like, the first Life is Strange game is one of my favorite video games of all time. The spin-off from the first game, the Before the Storm miniseries, was excellent as well. Like, the second series I didn't play, didn't interest me. But this looks like a bit of a return to form for it, and I'm keen to see more of that, and I probably will play it. But yeah, what they do with Avengers, and it's like, unless that game gets drastically changed, it will be the last update we get from Avengers, I think. We know they're bringing Black Panther, right? That's already been
that's what they're
kind of
teased.
About. So you'll have to imagine we're going to Wakanda, and hopefully whatever, I'm echoing the statements we've made time and time again. It needs its Taken King moment. It needs its, like, we've revamped everything. We've retooled everything. It'd be fucking sick if the armor that you drop, that you equip to your character, shows up on your character, like, rather than doing the skins model, because that gives you something to chase and it gives you customization. And if you can customize what your Hulk looks like and what your Iron Man looks like, and you're not relying on just skins from the comic books, that'd be pretty neat. But I don't think we're getting that. I think the team that are working on Avengers is way smaller than any of us think it is.
You think Spider-Man even comes out at this point?
Spider-Man does come out, but I think they said earlier this year that it was looking more likely to be... because it was supposed to be Christmas last year, wasn't it? So they basically pushed it a year. It's going to be for Christmas time this year, which will coincide with the new movie. So I think they're going to lean on doing that. Like at the moment, they have teased a Black Widow event. So there's a Black Widow harm room, and it's coming out around the same time as the Black Widow movie does. They're just doing what they should have done all along. They're leaning into what Marvel as a franchise are doing and putting in-game events into the game. Do you know what I mean? You come out of watching Black Widow and you go, I fancy jumping around as Black Widow for an hour and, you know, earning the costume that she had in the film. You've got people back into the game. You've got people playing for a reason. It's like they could do it, but I just don't think they've invested enough to do it. I hope they have. I hope it gets that moment because it's fun. It's a fun game. I had a good time with the campaign. I've been back and beaten it a second time on Xbox just to because I have it on Xbox. I wanted to play it on the Series X. So I've got decent level characters. I'm through the story. I'm at the point now where I'm ready for just a DLC drop. I'll jump in and play the story stuff, and I'll dip out. Very much how you treat Destiny, Chunt.
Yeah,
that's how I want to. That's how I want to play Avengers.
Do
And
you know how much I wanted to play Mad Max after I saw Mad Max Fury Road in 2015, and the game was like 10 months later. I'm like, God damn, I could really play a Mad Max game right now.
Yeah. Fuck, it's such a good game.
Because it is. It hits that kind of salient point of your brain where it's like you have that desire to do it. And Dan, we obviously get it with sports games. You're watching the NBA, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna go play a bit of 2K, or it's like, you know, NFL season for you. Or for me, like it's FIFA. Like the Euros are around, and like I never play international tournaments on FIFA. I'm always just playing club football. But it's like the Euros start today, and it's like, oh, there's international football. So it's like, oh, hey, I'll play through an international tournament and do it. It's always gone hand in hand for me, so I can see like why that would work. There was something that I wanted to add. I know we were just talking about E3. Last week we did like predictions and what we wanted from studios. I think there were a lot of little red herrings that we missed. You know, like little things that we've been talking about in the week where it's like, oh, hey, do we see this? Or there's kind of these little nuggets that maybe nobody's expecting that I think could still show up. Do you want to touch on that for like 10 minutes before we wrap up? Because obviously it's going to be. We said it was going to be a shorter episode this week, but it's probably wound up going quite long because we've had an actual conversation. But yeah, E3 is obviously happening like now. It's in the midst, and whenever people are watching this episode, we should be around Xbox time, or Xbox and Bethesda's events probably just happened.
Just before that, isn't it? It's Monday morning for us, Chun, isn't it?
Yep. 3 days.
Yeah, so just before the big conferences start to kick off. So you know, we'll, as said, we'll try and do a recording earlier next week to get the E3 stuff in before I go off on daddy duties and I'm not around for the next month. But I thought of this while you were saying it. Completely skipped my brain now as to what game I was talking about. Oh, it was CD Projekt Red. Like, do we think we're going to see Cyberpunk? Do we think it's finally going to get a date for that PS5 and Series X game?
I'm going to be optimistic and say, yeah, I'd like to see it on Xbox stage again because they were part of the Xbox whole deal. You know, the marketing was heavily towards Xbox. So if we do see any kind of next gen Series X, PS5 kind of hint or release, I think that'd be an obvious choice, I think, to see it on. But that just might be my bias showing.
Do you think
they need to
Keanu rocks up again and goes, no, seriously, this time it is breathtaking?
I think he'll probably want to remove himself from that shit, I think.
Yeah, that's a weird thing because obviously they have the Microsoft promotion deal with them, but I would probably imagine it'd be part of the Summer Game Fest over the next couple of weeks. Like it just hey, here's a big update for us to. We're going to say all the stuff that we're done and about to do, and here's an announcement for a release of when we're going to have it for the new consoles. As I said to you during the week, I just don't know how they can talk about like they've been doing all this work on the next gen and then be like, oh, but we haven't really fixed the PS4 issue. And I just don't know how you message that and come out as, well, you know, things happen, and we're just going to push on and leave the PS4 people in the lurch. But you'll be able to play it when you get the PlayStation 5.
You can at least still buy it off the Xbox store, you know? You can't on PSN.
No. And until CDPR come back and say, all right, the things that we said were broken about the game, we've fixed it. can you please let it on the store now? Because that's what happened. They said this game's not good enough to run, therefore Sony will refund your money. And Sony said, well, if it's not good enough to be on there, then we'll take it off. And then they haven't, and they'll just keep it like that until they say, well, you fixed all your issues.
That's a pretty ballsy move too. I really enjoyed watching that. It was just very interesting. Just to see Sony just be like, yeah, you know what? Fuck you. You know?
Yeah.
Which they did, and I don't know if are they now. I'm not going to say taking the piss too much, because fair enough. Like they had a very valid reason. If people are requesting refunds in droves, then by all means remove the game. But for all intents and purposes, and Dan, you and I were having a bit of a disagreement about the way that they were going about this. Is if CD Projekt Red turn around and go, the game is now in the most playable state we can make it on that hardware, which they pretty much have. It's like, we can't do anything else here. Like, we now need to look at building the next parts of the game. They've got free DLCs, etc. coming. They've got the next gen ports to do. It's like, they're not going to get better than this. Xbox seem happy enough to leave it there. They've actually, at one point, they had a warning, even on their own store, about the performance on last gen games, but that's now been taken away. So Microsoft seem happy enough that it's in a playable enough state for base hardware, but Sony is still kind of kicking the tire, going, yeah, you're not coming back here, mate. But at what point does that, like, who's right? Like, do you know what I mean? So it's like, Sony PlayStation players, if all you have is a PlayStation, basically, even though CDPR is saying the game's very playable now, yes, it doesn't look as pretty, we've done all the work we can, it is now in a much better place than it was at launch. At what point do you have to, as a PlayStation owner, turn to PlayStation and go, well, fucking list the game then? Like, why can't I buy it? Like, at what point does that happen? Because I feel for the developers. Again, we're not talking about the hierarchy and the people that pushed this game out way before it was cooked. But the actual developers who have spent time fixing that game are still being told that their game isn't allowed on one of the biggest stores on the planet. And to what level, I'll pass it back to you after, but I want to caveat this in terms of way in the future, so 3 or 4 years from now, when CDPR launch the next Witcher game, which they have confirmed they're in development on their next game, do they turn around and go, fuck off, Sony?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the next Witcher game doesn't come to PlayStation, or it doesn't come to PlayStation day and date. They don't spend the time polishing up a PlayStation version because of this whole situation.
Xbox exclusive.
Not beyond the realms of possibility, because I think, CD Projekt Red have made some statements in recent weeks about, Sony, the ball's in Sony's court. Like, we've done what we can. They're not playing ball. Like, yes, it's costing us a lot of money not being available on that platform, but we've done what we set out to do. We've done what we said we'd do. But Sony just seem unwilling to forgive and forget. They're still kind of sitting on that, I said, kicking that tin can around, going, yeah, not yet.
Well, my thought is that, okay, let's say they say, well, okay, we'll put it back out. But as someone that is thinking about buying the game, like, are you trusting CDPR coming out and saying, yeah, the game's good, you'll be able to play it? Yeah. Like, would you go and spend the $100, well, it's Australian, the $60, $50 it is at the moment to go spend and play that game, start playing it, and then go, shit, we're in the same spot, and it's not like Sony's going to refund the game again. And like,
yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, there is an element where they have to protect the install base. They have to protect the people paying, but you're stuck between a rock and a hard place at the moment, because I don't think
I think
either
both
of them are right.
Like, both are in a position where it can fall either way, and everyone blames one or the other. Like, because if Sony release it, then everyone will either complain about CDPR, like, oh, you didn't fix this game at all, but then you'll have other people being like, how could Sony let this come back onto their console? It's clearly still not fixed. Like, it's not really a win-win situation.
Do you know if they're still allowing the patches to be pushed? So, like, if they've developed a patch and someone's got the physical version, can they still push a patch?
Yeah, I think they are. Yeah, I think they are. I should put
Because
it in.
I remember-
'cause see what happens.
See what happens. I remember seeing a while back that wasn't happening. Like they weren't even certifying updates. They weren't letting them get through cert. So it's like, at what point do they then hold the candle? Do you know what I mean? If they're not going to let you push that update and they're not going to let it, patch the product. If they're not going to take an update, then why would they let you do it? Like, is the relationship just done? Is it dusted? Like, why? Like, they can't fix something. If there's complaints and it's not right, somebody needs to fix it. But if you're not being enabled to fix it, like, do you know what I mean? That again, it's that said that you're a rock and a hard place. How do you produce something and correct a production if they're not going to let you do it?
That's a good point.
But
Just buy an
I
Xbox.
guess when they're going through cert, they got to. It's okay. Well, here's the game with the patches. Is it good enough? I guess I don't.
Yeah. So as the platform holder, they obviously have that right. They have that right to say this doesn't meet our standard. But at what point then, as
CDPR
on the other side
at
of
the
coin-
time also had that comment about, Sony and Microsoft kind of trusted us to, get the game through okay by the release date, which was like, oh shit, you got all these people trying to get your games on, and you're just letting these people pass through. So I guess they're just making them go through all the channels that everyone else does, and they're just not able to push it through yet. That's tricky. I really don't know. I also don't care about the game enough to really look into it more.
Imagine if you're one of those people that bought the Cyberpunk chair and the $500 collector's edition and like all the merch and shit because you're super hyped up and you tidied up your desk and styled it as like a Cyberpunk setup, and then you get the game and it's like, wow, what the fuck is this? You just feel so gutted, eh?
I mean, I think if you were at the stage of having that level of investment, you were probably
Pushing through.
also, you'd put that much investment into the platform you were playing on.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not just going to be sat there with, base last gen stuff. You're going to be like ready to kind of melt your face a little bit.
True.
But no, I thought it was interesting to see, especially like what they were going to do. And I know obviously it was a conversation that came up earlier in the week, and I thought this is probably worthwhile discussing when we all get together.
I still want to play the damn thing, I'm
Same,
sticking
but
by my word.
Yeah, I'm waiting as well. I think I'd rather have the better version. I'd rather have the better experience. It's worth waiting. Most things come to, what is it? Good things come to those
I
who
got my
wait.
copy up on the shelf, just waiting, and I'll just wait until the PS5's there, and then I'll put it in. All good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. I've got a crack.
All right. Thanks for joining me, boys, and we'll try and get an early episode done next week after the
Yeah, for
conferences, and try and watch them at the early hours of the morning over here. But
Bring it on.
Thanks for joining
Do
me,
what
boys.
you can.
No worries. Bye, girls.
Bye.